Hello, everyone. I'm Doug Tabor, and welcome back to the rental market update. Today's update is going to be on Chattanooga, Tennessee for April 2025. My wife and I just had an opportunity to go visit Chattanooga. We spent some time there. Of course, we packed up the dogs and cat and went over there in the RV and really got on the ground and took a look at what that city is all about. Tried to go into the urban core and check things out, and then, of course, the surrounding areas. I'll tell you, if you haven't been to Tennessee, what a lovely state that is. Really good people, beautiful, beautiful land. And of course, you can't beat those tax advantages. Tennessee's really got it going on with incredibly low taxes. And so when you think about some of these markets that are there, you got Chattanooga MSA, you've got the Knoxville MSA, you have Nashville's MSA, Memphis. There's a lot of benefit because of these low taxes. Again, we really enjoyed it. What we noticed about that city is that it's definitely going through a complete revitalization. It was busy, and the growing pains of a revitalization like that means that there's going to be traffic, there's going to be construction noise. However, that being said, what a great market that is going to become, and we really enjoyed, like I said, our time there. So let's talk about Chattanooga, the market overview. Chattanooga's metro area has about 569,000 people, with 187,000 in the city proper. They've had some slow, steady growth. It's not speculative, so it's not overly populated, but they are getting some growth there. Let's talk about the jobs and the economy. Wonderful unemployment rate of 3.2%. We've talked before about the unemployment rate. I personally feel that that's the most important aspect of a rental market, because if your tenants can't pay their rent because they don't have a job, well, that means you're not going to be able to earn your income either. So a 3.2 and falling is really positive. It means that people are able to get jobs there. And falling is even more positive. They have a job growth of 0.2%, with 8,000 plus full-time job openings on Indeed right now. Over 3,000 of the jobs that I looked at on Indeed were above the median income, which is 68,000 for Chattanooga. And the top employers are Volkswagen, Blue Cross, Erlinger, McKee Foods, and several others. One of the cool things about going into Chattanooga is we were able to stop at the Lodge cast iron plant. And if you're like me, you're a fan of Lodge cast iron products. I have over 1,000 pounds, I feel like, of cast iron products. But we went to the forge, and boy, they had a lot of stuff. If I had an extra trailer behind the RV, I probably would have packed it full of items, and we'll definitely be going back there for sure. So what's the housing look like? Well, the median home value in Chattanooga is currently at $335,000, and that's up 3.3% year over year. You're looking at about $220 per square foot for very affordable properties. The days on market's about 51 days, which is up 17% year over year. As you know, that's one of the key indicators we look at, the days on market. Chattanooga's slowing down a little bit, and it's becoming more of a buyer's market, like many of these markets that we're looking at across the United States. So we'll keep an eye on that, and that could be a positive if you are thinking of going investing in that market, or maybe you don't own a home, you want to move there, you want to buy one. It'll become more of a buyer's market. Current inventory is healthy at 1,652 active single-family listings. They've been building a lot there. As I mentioned, they're going through a revitalization. So there's new building, of course, which I'll tell you, in all these markets we've gone through in the Southeast, and really since I've been traveling across the United States, everybody's building, with the exception of California markets, specifically in San Diego and Southern California, because we just don't have the room. And that's why everybody's looking outside of California. There's 730 new single-family permits in the past year. Construction levels are up 38.5% above the long-term average. So they're building there. That means prices are going to probably go down, and that days on market's going to go up. And also, like I mentioned, they are doing a lot of revitalization. So there's a lot of really cool cottage style properties, older properties near the city core, where there are completely renovating those properties. We went and looked at a couple, even some duplexes, which were kind of nice. So, there's a good mix there. You can buy new, which is, of course, going to be on the outskirts of town. Or if you want to stay within the town, you can go ahead and find something that's been renovated and flipped. So what's the multifamily snapshot over there? There's about 173 communities. And what we see in a lot of these towns is that multifamily is usually newer because unlike San Diego, unlike Los Angeles, these towns didn't have a lot of apartment buildings. And what my wife pointed out, she's been a property manager for one of the largest privately held owners in the past. So I always look to her for the property management expertise. She pointed out that a lot of these bigger properties are on the outskirts of town and because they're newer. So that was an original thought of mine. That was an original thought of hers. Give her the credit for that. Nearly 28,000 units currently on the ground in Chattanooga, MSA. And there's 829 units under construction. What we found, Chattanooga, Nashville, some of these areas, especially Huntsville, over the last 5 years, they've had a number of new multifamily properties, really since COVID, and almost like 50% increase over the last 5 years. So all these buildings are relatively new. When I did my research on Crexi, which, by the way, I want to thank Crexi. If you don't use Crexi.com, I want to get a shout out to them. If you're tired of using the traditional options, the Death Star or GoofNet, you might want to go over to Crexi and take a look. They have a lot of great options. That's Crexi.com, CREXI.com. I'll put them in the link in the show notes. The median price per unit is $130,000 with cap rates near 7.5%. So as you're coming out of those West Coast markets, $130,000 a unit sounds mighty tempting at an elevated cap rate. Of course, you'd want to find a good property manager, and if you're looking for one, just reach out to us through our CCIM network and our Keller Williams network. We're definitely able to connect you with both managers and agents on the ground. Let us do the vetting for you so that you don't have to worry about that. You can just focus on buying the right property. Average days on market for multifamily, 100 days on market. 100 days on market. That's what we're seeing nationally right now. We're seeing higher days on market for multifamily properties, and Chattanooga is no different. That means it's a buyer's market. So get out there and take a look at some properties and find what you're looking for. We did find, especially in some of these older communities that don't have a lot of newer multifamily, the 2 to 4 unit properties are really where you're going to find a lot of value and a lot of opportunity. So until those bigger properties start coming down in price, the 2 to 4 unit properties are certainly available. And if you can get that fourplex on a nice 30-year fixed mortgage, that's a good option. The challenge is, of course, if you're coming out of a West Coast market and you're not going to physically be on the ground, you're going to want to use that economy of scale and go for a bigger property. So that's where you're going to have to do your research and figure out what's going to work for you. Average apartment rents, $1,453 a month in Chattanooga, and that's down 3% year over year. So much like the rest of the country, there has been an overbuilding, an oversupply. If you've watched my videos on where I think we are in the real estate market cycle, you have recovery, you have expansion, you have hypersupply, and then recession. Personally, I think we're kind of in that hypersupply recession. Now, you probably don't see it if you're sitting in San Diego, if you're sitting in Orange County, if you're sitting in Los Angeles County, because there's just no new building there. But the minute you get outside of California, you'll see they've been building like crazy in all of the top markets. Phoenix, Austin, Dallas, all of the Southeast markets. And you're going to see in some of the videos that I include here that there's just a lot of new multifamily product that's out there. And so what you're seeing is a flooding of the market. You're seeing that the rents are coming down. They're having us now start give some rent concessions. And we've heard a lot about that. We heard recently a story of someone in Phoenix giving up to 4 months of rent concessions. Single family rent is $1,520, about 16% below the national average. And while rent growth is soft, the yield is strong. Cash flow beats appreciation here. Costs and laws. As I mentioned earlier, state income tax, there is none. That's another nice aspect of the Tennessee market, which is why every market we went into, there was a lot going on. There was a lot of traffic. There was a lot of people moving there because, it's a beautiful place. It's a free place, but it's also starting to become a little bit of a congested place because of all these positives. So low property taxes, no state income tax, no rent control anywhere in Tennessee that I found. It has a fast 14-day eviction process, so you can still get people out of units, and there are no tenant boards. So is Chattanooga a landlord-friendly market? Yes, it is. It is a landlord-friendly market. So here are my final thoughts. If you're looking for a market to reinvest in that has lower cost of entry, higher rates of return, low unemployment rate, and has really just a very conservative climate where you can go in and operate your rental property without worrying about all that government interference, Chattanooga, Tennessee is definitely a market that would work for you. If you're looking to get out of California and you want to learn how to sell your California rental property without incurring major capital gains, join my free on-demand webinar at www.rentalownerworkshop.com to learn more about exit strategies for owners of appreciated real estate. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with. Until next time, I'm Doug Tabor. Have a great day.